Well, hello, Maverick traders. Welcome to the Currency Recap. Joe with you here. It's Thursday, the 10th of July. You know how this works, so make sure you take responsibility for it. I'm going to take a look at the meaningful news of the day. I'm going to look at some stuff technically, and I have a couple of trades, so I'm going to definitely go ahead and share them with you.
All trades and analysis in this video are intended for professional traders only. This content does not constitute financial advice and is for educational purposes. This video is being released after a short delay due to Compliance Department review. Maverick members receive this content immediately as part of their daily trading resources. If you're ready to level up, consider joining Maverick Currencies. Our traders trade firm capital and keep 70 to 80% of profits. You bring the skill, we provide the backing. Let's get into today's market recap and see how the pros are trading the currency markets.
As we move into the market analysis, it was definitely a risk-on day. So the S&P and the NASDAQ tested all-time highs. Now, however, they didn't really shoot up there. We've seen a pretty good move over the last little bit, but these last couple of weeks have been kind of meandering sideways, and they happen to kind of test these highs. Now, we are moving into earnings season, so it's going to be super interesting to see some of the companies and if they could justify some of the price action they've seen as of late. So that might make things a little bit more tumultuous, but it should be cool. But so far, things are still super bullish. U.S. jobless claims lower than expected. It's a tough one. This is delayed. There's worries about what the tariff impact when it comes to small businesses. We also are worried about some federal jobs based on this new administration. But we haven't seen anything as of yet when it comes to at least the claims. But we did see an obvious move to risk on, and I'm just going to keep it there for today. So how do we finish? The yen, dollar, franc, euro, pound, CAD, all flat, a little lower, but the Aussie and the Kiwi moving a lot higher. In fact, the Aussie just about 0.75%. Now, I know the RBA came out and said they're just going to sit and pump the brakes. That was on Monday and see where things go. But I didn't see a lot of action until just recently. So we'll take a look at that chart here. Moving on, the S&P up a little bit, 0.27%. Once again, hey, all-time highs with 0.27% move. Not a lot of conviction there. World index up as well. Now crypto, 1.69% is when I pulled this. Gold's up a little bit, and then oil just continues to struggle. It's got its own problems, that is for sure. Now, I always think about crypto as a risk-on currency. Maybe I'm wrong, but boy, look at the surge in this. Bitcoin Cash was the only thing that really didn't participate, but Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, all moving higher as well. Let's do a quick recap over the overall markets themselves. We are still +3, and it's obvious. Let's just jump straight into the chart. It's because we are just at this high. These markets are very strong, and there's a lot of optimism in them. This is the previous area that we were out, and think about this. I mean, we broke out of this. Here we are retesting the high that we set there today. So yeah, it's hard not to be optimistic. It's hard not to definitely lean to the bull side. However, we know corrections do happen, and when they happen hard. But the overall markets themselves seem to be doing pretty good. Let's get into some economic news, and it was super light. It's been pretty light this week. This is what I saw here was this cash rate here at 3.85, 3.6. The RBA statement, they come out and say, you know what, we're just going to hold for a minute and just sit back and see what happens. Not a lot of movement, like I say, until I saw today a big push to the upside when it comes to risk on. Here's our unemployment claims, 236K versus 227. To me, that doesn't seem like that big of a drop, but it's been the lowest in 2 months. We'll see where that goes. So there's a lot of volatility I'm seeing in some of these numbers, and there is a whole lot of speculation when it comes to the reaction in some of the trading as well. Now we are going to see some CAD announcements here on Friday. Unemployment change, unemployment rate. We have the GDP here, month over month at least, for the pound as well. I don't know how much of an impact that's going to have. We'll see where this goes, but I think the next focus, at least on the U.S. side, is going to be going into the earnings season. So let's go out and see exactly what happened today, at least on the velocity side when it comes to these currencies. Let's first start off with the yen, and you could see just a down day here, 0.19, and it's kind of just got this low bleeding off, kind of similar to the US dollar. not showing a lot of strength. It did have a decent little bounce on Tuesday, going into Wednesday there, but over the last little bit here, it seems like it's rolling over. So this is almost like a bear rally confirmed. I kept this at a -2, and the reason why is because there's the chance of a consolidation right at this level. Now, if it breaks a little bit lower than that, then I could go back to that negative or a -3 outlook. The RSI hitting that 50 and then rolling back over, kind of flatlining. Flip-flop on the SAR doesn't matter because this is a pretty steep drop here on the moving average. So I'm just going to keep it as a -2 for now. The dollar, pretty much the same. It showed a little bit more strength, and the reason being is because I see a little bit more consolidation here. We had a little bit of a surge to the upside. Now, the RSI itself is floating a little bit lower. It's playing with that 50, showing that there might be a little bit more interest to the downside. Flip on the SAR, but this moving average has kind of flattened itself. It was moving higher and it flattened itself. So it's more of a hold for me than it is aggressively buying or selling. I think the US dollar is a little bit tired, for lack of a better term, when it comes to velocity. We'll see what happens, especially when we get into earnings or more tariff stuff, right? So I'm going to keep that glass half empty flat, but a -1. Let's move on to the franc. You can see the franc was showing some strength and has been for a little bit. A little consolidation, high base, breaks out, moves higher, but a little bit of a pullback, and this was pretty aggressive. Could it be reaction to kind of the risk-on move that I saw today? I don't know. That's why we chart this when it comes to velocity and the daily. Big drop in the RSI. I didn't want to punish it. The moving average is kind of flattening. It's still kind of up. So I decided, hey, look, if this can bounce where it's at and maybe create some sort of support level, move higher, I'd love to put this back up to a +1, +2, or +1 at least. But for right now, I think it's in corrective action. So it's a 0 for me. And just like the dollar, it's something I'm really not interested in. Let's go to the euro. You can see the euro actually kind of broke a level. I thought that was pretty interesting. It actually fell down, moved lower. It is finding support, and it's not kind of this make or break area. It's just a deeper pullback. The RSI did slide lower. The SARs did flip, and the moving average is it's rolling over. But overall, I'm not going to count it against it. So I don't really like where it's going. But overall, it's not super weak to call it a -3. But it did break a pretty good support here, and this RSI drop shows there might be a little bit more to go. At best, more of a consolidation. It could slide lower, so I decided to put the euro at a -2 for now and just kind of sit back and watch. Once again, there's very few currencies out there that are worth focusing on when you have days like this. Let's move over to the pound. The pound should be similar. This was one of my stronger favorite ones for quite some time, but you could see as of late, this RSI has had a hard time struggling just to get above that 60 level. It rolled over here below the 50. It's sliding lower. We've got a sideways moving average, a little bit of a slip down today, and it is dropping. It did break a support level here today. So we'll see where this goes. If it can turn where it's at, if it comes back and retests here, I'm going to have to move it down a little bit more bearish. But right now, I got it in the same place as I have the euro, which is a -2. Let's take a look at the CAD. Now, the CAD's hanging in there, a little bit more of a consolidated currency than the others. It has shown a little bit more weakness. It has, at least on the RSI, the moving average is kind of flattening, but it is still holding in a pretty good area. There's some support here back in June. So if it can kind of stay up in this area and stay above that and move sideways, it's still a little bit more pessimistic, but I don't really want to punish it. I kept this at a 0. It's something that I really don't want to use against the currency right now, but I don't want to make a definitive decision when it comes to direction, not just yet. So let's move over to the Aussie. Now you can see that's already starting a little bit of a rollover after a pretty good surge to the upside based on when I'm teaching this class, but it is still absolutely super strong. Look at the consolidation that the RSI had here above the 50 and a little bit of a blip up. Now I do expect this to retrace at least or consolidate, but it is a strong breakout, a good turn in the moving average, a flip on the SARs. It's extended. I mean, it's a surge to the upside, and it's breaking a resistance that it's had for quite some time. So I got to give it, well, when it comes to our scoring on velocity, I have to give it a +3. I expect it to consolidate or pull back, so just be aware of that when it comes to pairing with other currencies. Let's take a look at the Kiwi, and it's very, very similar, except for it isn't in that nice high base breakout moving higher. It is a surge. It is strong. I have a good push above the RSI. Looks like it's trying to roll over. It might retest, but it is kind of breaking this consolidating sideways trend that could emerge to something a little bit more optimistic. Now, when it comes to the straight up velocity score, it's easy, +2. Flip on the SAR, surge above the RSI above 50, and breaking above resistance. So it was easy for me to give it a +2. Now, as comparing the Aussie against the Kiwi, I would definitely say that the Aussie is the more outperformer and probably the stronger currency that I'd use to pair against something weaker. So let's jump straight into our cryptos. Let's start with Bitcoin, and Bitcoin just looks great. Now, Bitcoin is a pretty good surge, right? It's been basing, a little bit of a pullback here on the RSI, but it didn't dip at all. This is just a big push to the upside. Once again, just a risk-on move, and it was just pretty interesting to see. It did break above resistance. It's turning the moving average. The SARs have flipped. This is easy, +3 when it comes to momentum. Let's go to Bitcoin Cash, as I kind of scratched my head because Bitcoin Cash isn't quite the same, is it? It's just a kind of meandering. We do have a strong RSI. It did bounce off the 50. We do have a moving average that's slightly higher, but a flip-flop SAR. So I couldn't give it anything more than a +1. And the reason being is because I'm worried about this resistance up here, and also that this SAR keeps flip-flopping and it's having a hard time moving higher. Ethereum, just like Bitcoin, good consolidation there. Look at the breakout here on the RSI. Flip on the SARs. Good move on the moving averages, +3. Now, this is on momentum, folks, because things can actually turn or consolidate over the next couple of days. Just be aware of it. Here's Litecoin doing the exact same thing. Good push above the RSI. Good flip. Good move. Moving averages moving higher. And a nice breakout above resistance when it comes to price. So easily kind of the same idea, +3. Now, momentum is difficult, folks, because when you gauge it against something longer term, you have to absorb that. And when we take a look at some of my picks today, you'll see that. So here's our velocity score for today, and you can see there's quite a bit going on. It was a very strong, interesting push when it comes to risk on. The Aussie, I think, is probably one of my favorites, but so is Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a great, great move, good breakout. Some things didn't participate. Now, a lot of these over here didn't get really punished. It was the fact that there was just a big surge in the risk on stuff, the cryptocurrencies and the Kiwi and the yen. Everything else just kind of meandered. It wasn't like it was falling apart or getting hammered. It was just a pretty definitive move to risk on. So when it comes to possible trades, I've got a couple. I've got two that I really, really like, and we'll see what happens past that. Now, the first trade I like, folks, is, of course, it's Bitcoin. If we're going to see this risk-on move and it's going to push higher, I'm into it. Now, I want to elaborate a little bit more because this is going to be a little bit more longer term than just a velocity push. Let's take a look at the daily on this. I really, really like the daily chart on this. It's just got this nice area of where it's actually pushed through, a good turn on the RSI. Cryptocurrencies, folks, are very volatile, so I don't like to play them intraday, hour by hour, stuff like that. I like to play them a little bit more longer term. But I just like the chart. I just like the surge where it's going. So it's going to be more of a longer term trade, more over just a velocity score, a velocity trade. The other trade I like that set up today was the Aussie US, and it's very similar. Let's take a look at it in a couple of situations. So here's the 4 hour. Here's our velocity. Let's go back to that. And I like how it's butting its head up against this. In fact, it's kind of nice that it's actually it's pulling back or slowing down, at least in the shorter term. I need confirmation on this to the upside, but if we can get another surge that we had today and the US dollar just kind of going sideways or going lower, I do like it. Now, if you take a look at it in the longer term as well, it kind of correlates. So this is going to be kind of the same trade as Bitcoin. However, this one seems to be a little bit reluctant. This is where we have to be patient and wait for confirmation before we put the trade on. But those are the two that are on my radar as of today. So to sum it up, folks, I just saw a huge push to risk on today. Crypto, Aussie, the Kiwi. I don't know if that's going to last for a few days, but it was very interesting. Kind of a fun little head scratcher there. The U.S. markets continue to bleed higher. I want people to understand that this isn't a massive surge to the upside. You're not missing out on the boat. I mean, this is a pretty good move to get to the point that we're at, but the U.S. markets are a little reluctant here. But they're definitely glass half full. So just be aware of that. We got to always play our relative strength and weakness and proper position sizing no matter what you guys decide to trade. Trades will come in. A day like today is kind of interesting, but you still have to wait for that confirmation, like I showed you on that last example. All right, folks, thanks for joining me, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye, everybody.